I want to look at the nationalist cause in Britain. We have to own this word, nationalism. I mean, Donald Trump said, we are nationalists. We stand for the nation state. We stand for the integrity of our nation and of our people, which has existed in Britain for over 1,000 years. This is what we're trying to defend, our national heritage. And obviously we have enemies, and the enemy has got in. It's got in to the heart of this nation. The globalists, they control Westminster, they control the civil service, they control the media, they control all the state, branches of the state, education, health. They're there and they're a dominant player in our society, and they're constantly undermining our society. We see the problem with mass immigration, which it's gone beyond just people coming into our country. It's colonization now. They're actually taking over areas of our country, areas of our national life, rapidly. We're being dispossessed. We're being replaced as a people. We have to press the alarm. There's an emergency going on. We have to respond to that. And within the process of mass immigration, colonization, we have the rise of Islam, which is a completely different way of life. It's an alternative ideology. It's not just a religion. It's a political system as well, and it's claiming territory. It believes that Allah has given them sovereignty over this land. So that is another imminent threat to our survival. This is about national survival. This is what the battle's for. And this is why we've got to wake up, and we need a vehicle to wake us up. We need a political party that we can all rally behind and support and promote into power. Now, traditionally, the patriotic party in Britain was the Conservative Party, the party of Winston Churchill, the party of Enoch Powell, the party of Margaret Thatcher, a party that believed in national sovereignty, that believed in Britain and in the ideal of Britain, that the British people had a glorious history. Churchill used to talk about it going on, into the future. But the Conservative Party has lost its soul. We can see this in the whole Brexit debacle. Theresa May is not a patriot. That's obvious. In this whole EU debate, the withdrawal from the EU, she is battered on the side of the European Union. I mean, I claim that when she first produced her so-called deal to the British public, it wasn't a deal. It was a surrender document. It was the EU's preferred terms for us to leave, which involved paying them huge sums of money, 39 billion straight off, plus 25 billion per annum ad infinitum. And it would give the EU still control of our legal system through the European system of justice. And it would also, because of the backstop, would deny us the ability to actually pull out of this deal. It was horrendous, and it was rightly voted down in Parliament. And it exposed Theresa May for what she is, an enemy of this country, masquerading as a Conservative. And this is the situation with the Conservative Party. Now, we know there's the European Reform Group led by Jacob Rees-Mogg, which wants to regain national sovereignty, but it won't tackle the underlying issues that face this nation of immigration, Islamization. Now, on the continent at the moment, there are nationalist forces, and this is the term nationalism, forces fighting for the integrity of nations, which are growing rapidly. And there are great leaders emerging, people like Matteo Salvini in Italy, who has virtually single-handedly stopped illegal immigration into Italy and has brought control over the Italian borders again. He's just shown that with the will, you can achieve this very easily. If you're determined, you can stop illegal immigration into your country, or even legal immigration. You can control it. I mean, in Britain, we have now, the gross figure is over 600,000 a year coming into this country legally, and a further 100,000 plus illegally. So we're looking really at 2,000 people every single day are migrating into Britain. And this is creating a total transformation of our society, is imposing huge burdens on our welfare state, is leading to this huge explosion in our national debt. This is going on. And the Conservative Party have had power for 9 years, has done nothing to stop this. They've just allowed this to continue ad nauseum. But in Italy, Matteo Salvini has showed the way on how to stop it. And of course, we have Viktor Orban in Hungary, who talks about saving our Christian civilization, talks about saving the traditional European society. And Viktor Orban, right, he is talking about reinvigorating our traditional societies. Whereas globalism wants to denigrate our culture and replace it with this sort of phantom cultural Marxism, just rampant individualism, Viktor Orban is addressing the important issues of the family, of faith, of national cohesion. And yet the Conservatives in this country will not address these issues. Theresa May has sold us out. She does not promote the family. Again, she's betraying the Conservative ideology. She's showing herself to be a liberal globalist. And these are the people who control the Conservative Party. I mean, the sooner she goes, the better. She's proven that she's almost like a cat with 9 lives. She should have gone after the 2017 general election, which was humiliated, really, by Jeremy Corbyn. She should have gone after the vote in Parliament, which she lost. Her ridiculous deal, surrender, was voted down by a huge margin, over 200, a margin of over 200. I mean, she should have gone at that point, because it was a humiliation for her. I mean, it was Jeremy Corbyn who saved her by having this vote of confidence. He forced the Conservatives and the DUP to rally behind this woman, who we don't want as Prime Minister. Nobody seems to support her, but she hangs on. She's like a cat with 9 lives. She's lost 3, and hopefully she hasn't got 6 more to go. But she's pushing non-conservative agendas. She's a conservative in name only. We need in Britain a nationalist force, a populist force, which stands up for this nation and its people, the ordinary people of this country. And as I say, in Europe, there are forces emerging. We've looked at Salvini, we've looked at Viktor Orban. In Poland, the Law and Justice Party has established itself as the party of government, and their whole ethos is to reinvigorate the Polish nation, to keep out the mass immigration, and to stop or thwart any attempt at Islamization. They want Poland to thrive as a nation. They are nationalists. We need a political force in this country that wants Britain to thrive as a nation, who are nationalists. Now, besides the Conservative Party, we've got other marginal parties, like For Britain, which is led by Anne-Marie Waters. Now, she's saying a lot of excellent things about Islam and about immigration and about the survival of this nation. But the For Britain are a very marginal force. They're not known by many people. I would be surprised if even 15% of the British public can recognise that name. So they lack name recognition. They've not made any electoral impact. They may be able to do so in the future. But at the moment, they're at the margin and they've got a steep mountain to climb. And in their way is UKIP. Now, UKIP was kept by Nigel Farage as a one-trick pony, which was just there to get us a referendum on Europe and to get us out of the EU. And that was a steep task that Nigel Farage set himself, but he's been very successful, at least at getting us the referendum and getting the Leave vote, and he's achieved that. But since he's achieved that, he's lost interest in UKIP, and eventually he left UKIP. UKIP must reinvent itself as a nationalist populist force. And it has great potential because it has name recognition. Everyone knows who UKIP is. I remember I stood as a UKIP councillor in 2011, and people I approached, really, most people didn't have any clue about who UKIP were. Now they're a household name. And that gives them a measure of protection. Because the globalist state will clamp down on any nationalist forces. They'll try and criminalise them. We see this with any nationalist force that emerges, any personalities that sort of try and defend the British people, thinking of the likes of Tommy Robinson or most recently James Goddard. Anyone who speaks up for the British people, the globalist state comes down on them like a hammer. And you need a protective shield against that. And UKIP, because of its name recognition, because in 2016 it got 4 million votes at the general election, it's shown that it is a national political force. And therefore, the state will find it very difficult to clamp down on UKIP the way it's used this sort of Eastern European police tactics to clamp down on other political forces. So UKIP has great potential. And Gerard Baton seems to be going in the right direction. He's brought Tommy on board. He's tried to bring Tommy Robinson's army on board. He's tried to become a populist leader. He's spoken against Islam. But Tommy cannot become a member of UKIP. It's a bit absurd, you know. They have to remove that clause in the Constitution, which really prohibits nationalist populists from joining UKIP, well-known ones, people who've been involved with the EDL or the BNP or other nationalist forces. Most of these people, the vast majority of them, are really just ordinary, decent patriots whose background was in either the Labour Party or the Conservative Party and just wanted to make a stand against mass immigration and Islamification and the power of the EU. They are the people that UKIP needs now to fight the campaign. Now, if they allow people from these organisations who are member for any length of time to join UKIP, they will get denigrated by the national media. But they're not going to get good press, UKIP. The national media now have got UKIP in their sights. The national media is the spokesperson for the globalist state. This is the globalist corporatist media. And it's not going to promote a nationalist party. It's going to denigrate them at every turn. You just have to take that as it is. Because the people we're appealing to, the awakened ones, the ones that want to save our nation, they are part of the network society, the alternative media. They will listen to videos like this on YouTube. They will go on, have Facebook, part of Facebook network or Twitter networks or any sort of nationalist websites. They will have different access to information from the globalist corporatist media. They've turned away from that. The BBC now, its viewing figures are collapsing. The British people no longer regard it as a truthful source of information. It's, as Donald Trump says, fake news. And it's the same with Sky News or Channel 4 or the National Press. They're all fake news. Even sort of oracles that we had respect for in the past, like the Daily Mail, that now has lost all credibility in the way it attacked Tommy Robinson and described him in such horrendous terms. You know, Tommy Robinson is a folk hero, and he is a potential future leader of UKIP, if that's what he desires. I hope he can get into Parliament. That's what we need. We need a nationalist voice in Parliament. We need to campaign in elections and win elections. This is the task that is set before us now. And if it means the unification of For Britain, UKIP, the right wing of the Tory party, into a new nationalist party, a new populist party, so be it. We have to start to make desperate measures because our nation has not got long to survive. I really believe that. I believe within the last 10 years now that this country is simply being overwhelmed by the number of third world immigrants coming in. And that's not accidental. That is exactly what the globalists want. That's why it's happening. So we need a political force to stand up against that, to give this country a future, to give this country hope. Now, the reason there's such apathy and despair in this country is because there is not such a vehicle that people can sort of unite around. We have to create that vehicle. That is what needs to be done. And we can look to the continent. We can look to Marine Le Pen and National Rally in France, the way she's shaken Macron to the core. I mean, there's a real malaise in France, which is only going to be resolved through the election of Marine Le Pen as president. There's a real malaise in Germany as well, which is only going to be resolved when the nationalists, the Alternative for Deutschland, take power in Germany. There's a real malaise in Spain, and we can see the rise of populist forces there with the Vox Party. Dramatic rise in power. And of course, we have our heroes And I've mentioned Salvini, I've mentioned Orban, but there's somebody else as well. That's Sebastian Kurz in Austria. There's Christoph Blocher in Switzerland, the Swiss Volkspartei, the Swiss People's Party. But there are voices now within the system challenging the European elite, challenging the EU bureaucracy. In May of this year, which is only a few months off, there's going to be elections, EU elections across the 27 countries of the EU, and the nationalists are going to fight these elections with great optimism and great vigour, and we're seeing a reawakening in Europe of the nationalist cause. We want our nation states to survive. We will cooperate, but as nations. We don't want to be ruled by these bureaucracies, these unaccountable, unelected bureaucracies centred on Brussels. We want our nations to cooperate. We want our traditions and our people to be protected. We want to be secure in our own countries with secure borders. We want a government which fights for our economies, which fights to keep our companies in our nations and providing employment for our people, not simply dumping our people and going to other nations and going into the third world to manufacture goods. We need people to take responsibility for the survival and prosperity of the European peoples, of the European nations. And Britain has to play its role in that. We're behind the curve in many ways, but a party will emerge very shortly to give the British people hope of national renaissance. And I can't wait for that day. I hope you've enjoyed this channel. There's a subscription button. Hit the subscription button. The many subscribers we have as possible, the better. There's also a donation button. If you'd like to make a contribution to this channel, there's a PayPal link in the description. We're hoping to buy new cameras. We're hoping to buy a camera which will enable us to film on the rally. We need constantly, equipment has to be renewed, and we have to pay travel costs to go to these places. The better the equipment we have, the more videos we can make, the easier we can make them. So if you can afford to make any donation at all, I would very much appreciate that. Thank you.